Hang on. I may need to free some disk space. We're going to do some actual game programming, yes. This is not a just chatting stream. What are you talking about? Last stream you noticed an initializer that you were emitting code for zeroing structs before checking if they're uninitialized. No, because well, I'll write down to verify that, but you're supposed to not get there unless you know that it's initialized. But possibly it does the wrong thing for recursive elements that are declared as uninitialized in their declaration. We'll look at it. That could be wrong. Could be wrong. What is going on, people? How is my PC full? Let's delete some things. I am downloading a game in the background. I guess we have enough. Ooh. Ugh. Ugh. I'm gonna need to get a new PC eventually. That's what I do when my hard drive fills up. It's just like, well, or I could delete stuff from Dropbox. That'd be good. What the hell is... That's old. Okay, we'll probably have hard drive space now. Hopefully. You still haven't been assigned any real work yet. Well, maybe you better go somewhere else. What do I do for new PC buying? I go to the PC store and tell them what to build. I don't put the parts together myself anymore. Life is way too short. I did that for way too many PCs back in the day. It's just mainly, I'd rather pay somebody to do that. Did I play Eliza? No, why does everyone think I want to play Eliza, dude? It's a visual novel. It's like exactly what I don't want to play. I am not going to play it. The end. Yes, there's been progress. We're going to do a demo this Saturday. All right, so this runs. Today at work, I was in the middle of revamping some old stuff and getting rid of some old things in the game that are not really right anymore. So I'm going to do that. For example, we don't need this transmutable flag anymore. Except the tree has it set, which which is kind of gross. Okay. First step, I'm going to take out any code that uses this flag. Second step, I'm going to do a salvage run over all the levels in the game and remove the flag from any entities that are saved. Because if I take out this declaration of this flag, somebody else might define their flag later on. And if some random entities that are saved in files have that flag value set, then unpredictable things are going to happen. Well, not unpredictable, but surprising to whoever puts that in. So it's kind of toxic waste to leave extra flags around. So we'll do that. Okay, that's not even a thing. Oh, that's my old salvage right there. Yeah, okay, never mind. Those are just my salvage routine I wrote today at work. This is just letting you toggle the flag. This is setting the transmutable flag. Oh, we don't set it on trees by default. Let me see if they're set. We should do the scrub anyway. Okay, we don't do that. We don't need this, in theory. So what happens is there's a druid who can transmute things between a couple different forms. And originally, it was walls that the druid could transmute, but we changed. And the walls, there were certain walls that were flag transmutable and had special meshes. And I changed that, so now there's an entity type called tree. And that's the thing that's transmutable. So walls are not supposed to be transmutable anymore. So we're just clearing out code that did that. So, so this is like if we found a transmutable wall, and we're not going to worry about that. And so we're not going to need to check it against wall. I mean, transmutables, primary is transmutable 0. Okay. So wait, found wall. What are we even using this for? We're just going to simplify this whole thing. Okay, this convert to block should be convert to tree probably. This destroys anything that's stuck inside the thing we just transmuted. Okay. So why am I saying found wall? Oh, we may have non-transmutable walls. Right. And if there's a transmutable wall, this is confusing. Okay. Non-walls is transmutables.items. If non-walls why don't I just, okay, look. If there's no transmutables, Okay, we already know there are transmutables because we're inside an if. So that's fine. So non-walls is true because there's no walls. So we're going to say if we're not affected by the through beam, boy, we may well mess this up real bad. So of course there's no primary yet. I'm just going to get rid of this. So if there's no blocking wall, and then this is not even fine type at. This is like, so I rewrote this today. This is like is wall at, because it doesn't need actual entities for the walls. We're doing that so that the levels scale better. Is there a wall at transmutes? Okay. So found wall is false. If we're not affected by through beams, then we see if there's a wall at the new position. Okay. We already know transmutables is true. So if we're not blocked by a wall, let's call it blocked by wall. If we're not blocked by a wall, okay. I need to change what happens here because we can't modify the outer walls. This was a ill-defined corner case rule that we should change. We're going to say is wall. We're always going to check that no matter what. And then we're going to say okay, we're going to say no through beams. So if there's a wall and there's no through beams, then we're blocked by a wall. Okay. So there is a wall. We know for sure if there's a wall there or not. We don't know if we're blocked, or we may not be blocked by it. Okay, if we're not blocked by it, we transmute the thing. And then if there is a wall, we reach through it to transmute due to the through beam. Okay. Then, actually, let's do this. We'll destroy the thing in the wall. Yeah, our rules are just different than when I originally wrote this code. Okay. Okay. Actually, we should do this out here. Like if you transmute something and it's in a wall, otherwise, and why don't we transmute everything? Why are we primarying? Okay. If it's a rock, hope you guys are all following along. We convert it to a, that shouldn't be actually say wall, it should be to tree, right? Else convert to block. We're going to call that convert to rock. Oh, right. Okay. So if there's a wall, we schedule it, everything for destruction. Else, okay. So basically, we're going over, maybe the primary thing was better, but we're saying, look, if there's a wall, we destroy everything. Look, if this is not the first thing, then we make it disappear. Otherwise, it is the first thing, and we convert it. Okay, so convert to wall is not the right name. This is convert to tree. Now, somebody else might be using that function, and to block should be rock. So we might have to rename some things. Oh, no primary. Okay, great. Now we're going to do a Benny test because we changed a bunch of things. I think we got rid of that flag. Yeah. Basically, just the flag declaration remains. Somebody said using Linux at home is phenomenal. I don't know. Phenomenal seems like a very strong statement about anything, unless you mean it in a very literal sense, like phenomena were involved. Then I believe it. All right. We're just going to Benny test this sucker. Which is also going to crank through a lot of the texture compressions. phenomena like aliens. So he's running Linux on an Alienware laptop, clearly. Okay, that makes sense. So far, one test has failed only, and that one's expected. There aren't that many tree levels, though. So if tree behavior was broken, we might not see it till late in the testing. When I get rid of the flag, didn't the version get updated? Didn't the version get updated? The version of what? Oh, Casey, what up? What happens if someone has created a level but not checked it in yet? Will they have to make the same kind of changes? No, if you create a level and you haven't checked it in, then you're hosed. Don't do that. Keep your stuff checked in. Check in now if it's not checked in, because otherwise you're going to have problems. Well, you'll create problems for someone else later when they have a random toxic waste flag in their entities and they're like, what the hell is this? File version. No. Changing an entity flag, like, okay, let me show you where this flag lives. There's just this entity flags type, and this is one flag in here. If we delete this declaration because we don't want this flag in our source code anymore, that's not going to change the file format, because we don't write out the flags as series of these strings ORed together. That's what we would do if we wanted like maximum mutability or whatever. But no, we just write out the number because we want the game to load and run before the sun burns out and before the entire computer industry is ruined by loading JSON all the time. So we just write out the hex number for this. So what I'm saying is the downside of that is that if I delete this and don't clear this flag from everybody in all the levels, then people will just have an OX8000 flag set, maybe. I actually don't think, I don't think this is really a problem in this case, because I doubt that this flag is set on anything. Unless, well, I ran a different pass earlier today where I converted all the old style tree walls to trees, and those would have had this set. But those levels now, for those, if somebody had one that wasn't checked in and snuck one in later, the test would break. So we would know that that didn't happen, and you could manually convert. Like if it's just one or two levels, you could manually convert them. And it looks like the only code that set it for things that appeared. So I would suspect maybe this flag is in some people's save games, except I also reset save games today. So I doubt this flag is actually in anything, but I'm going to do a pass over all the levels just to make sure. I've been talking about how much faster a computer could be without current operating systems. You also explained that the same instruction can be run on Mac PC because you tried hijacking a computer and making an extremely minimal OS. No, dude, I'm busy, man. I'm really busy. I have too much to do. Making an extremely minimal OS is not a thing that I have the time to do right now. But also, like, okay, so here's the thing. It is true that current operating systems are not very efficient, but the thing that mostly makes software inefficient is just the way that it's written, like the way that it calls into the operating system and the way that it calls into, libraries and stuff, right? Well, and the way that the operating system, like the operating system, for example, requires you to go through it to send a network packet or something, the way that things usually happen, and that's slow. So those are the ways in which an operating system is slow. If you like wrote an operating system that just gave you a way to load machine language instructions, that's not where the speed win comes from, okay? The speed win comes from changing the way that you build software. The main reason why I always say we need to make a new operating system is complexity, okay? Which also ends up making software slow, that they have to deal with all this complexity. But really, it's just the bugginess and the horribleness of modern systems, right? So it's different things. Like, why are flags a pain in the ass? Most flags aren't a pain in the ass, man. We're still going with the test. Let's see if any more have failed. Mirror maze. Oh, we finished just now. All right, we're good. Only 9 levels have failed, and those are the ones we expected to fail. So we can check this in. My drastic change of the tree code appears to have been successful, in as much as we care. Remove the use of transmutable flag, restructure. What is it called? Just transmutation code. All right, great. So we've done that. Did I go to DEF CON? No, I've never been to DEF CON. Not even back when I was the roommate of a dude who went to DEF CON and was a big part of that scene did I ever go to DEF CON. Okay. We want to get rid of the flag. So I'm going to go to editor commands. I have a command that I wrote today called salvage trees. I'm just going to keep reusing the same command. We're going to call it, I'm just going to call it scrub now. Whatever, no scrubs. So what's the table of all entities called? Is it all entities? No. Entity array. Okay, so we're going to go over all entities. I'm going to comment out this. I'm leaving all this old code in comments just in case. So for manager, all entities, if it's not transmutable, we don't care about it. Right? Otherwise, we'll clear that flag, and let's actually do this. We're gonna array add to IDs it.entity ID. That's great. And then down here we're gonna say, actually we'll do a print. We say the universe name scrubbed transmutable from, let's, I keep forgetting, I have some function entity string. Okay. That'll print the type and the ID. Okay, so we do that. And then we save. All right. And I'm going to make a release build of the game, assuming this compiles, and that'll take another few minutes. Wait, it's not, oh, it's entity array. Why did I say all entities? Because that's what it used to be called. I used to have, before we had a good iterator situation, we used to have a backup thing called all entities that was like a flat array. This is a bucket array, which is like more efficient for adding and removing. Yeah. All right, let me do a release. That's going to take like 30 seconds. Just because I think there's a weird thing. I don't know how the texture processing works because I didn't write that part, but I feel like we end up processing a lot more textures if I switch back and forth between builds. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's not true, but I'm just going to be safe. I just want this to run fast. They basically needed USB and SATA support in the BIOS somehow that turned into 1 million lines. I mean, I think part of it is USB is ridiculous to begin with, but yeah, it's certainly, like, nobody seems to really, okay, like, here's the thing. Like, the technical community is just insane in certain ways. Like, look, every good engineer knows that more code is worse than less code, all other things being equal, right? And knows how bad it is to have too much code. And knows the cost of that. But like culturally, as a group, nobody gives a shit, right? Nobody cares like at all. It would be like, it's like if everybody knew that cyanide was toxic, but like it looks pretty or something, so everybody went around painting cyanide on all the surfaces. That's not a very good analogy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and nobody thought that that was weird. That's the weird part. It's like nobody thought that it was weird that even though we think cyanide is poisonous, we all go painting it on all the surfaces. Like, what the fuck? Like, how stupid are we as an industry? Like, I can't even comprehend. It's so weird. Used to be like that with radium. That is a good point, but I don't think everyone was really totally aware of how bad radium was. I don't know. All right, so we're going to go here. I'm going to go scrub. And we'll see if that even scrubs anything. Now, of course, if this doesn't output anything, we're going through like every level in the game right now, including all the draft levels. I should see. Yeah, nobody checked anything in. Wait, hold on. Oh, actually, no, because I updated right before the stream, so I've got all that. Yeah, see, we're processing a lot of textures. I could set, because we do that whenever we load a level and there's updated textures. I could like set a flag that makes us not do that, and this would all go a lot freaking faster. Or I could go into our freaking texture processing code and make it launch them in parallel. I just haven't done either of those things because it's not my department. So we have to wait for all this, even though cranking through the actual levels is pretty fast. As always. People care, but they can't change anything. Be real. No, they don't care. People literally don't care. Like, as an industry, like a small number of individuals appear to care, but like Microsoft does not care. Okay, IBM does not care. Do you know what I'm saying? Institutionally, the institutions do not care. And this is very weird because the not caring about this means that the institution will decay over time, which means that to some degree they're ineffective institutions. That's what I'm saying is weird. Like, Google is not worried about making their source code small institutionally. Why? It doesn't make sense. Okay. And I think the reason is, as I always say, that they just have so much money that they don't have to care. But they will have to care eventually. But they won't know how to care by the time they have to care, so they'll be in danger. Okay. I was looking for scrubbed, transmutable. Oh, there's a couple of trees. And one from an inanimate. Heroes 310. That's it. 3 entities in the whole thing. Okay. Wait, why was there an inanimate marked? Somebody, like a level editing person, may have done something weird. Oh, okay, this is not good. This is the kind of thing that happens. Look. I suspect that whoever was setting up this level... Okay. This doesn't really matter. Nobody ever noticed this because you can't... I don't think it's possible to try to transmute this tree. But like whoever was working on it like made it an inanimate type instead of a tree type. So I'm just going to say coerce tree. There we go. Right? So we're going to save that. And we're going to take transmutable out of the whole thing. So we've scrubbed everything. And just build to make sure. Oh, that's my new scrub command. I was like, wait, we still have code that uses this. Yes, the scrub that I just did wants to know about it, of course. All right, great. Commit. Entity transmutable is gone. Bam. All right. What is transmutable? I was just explaining that for 20 minutes. Did IBM ever care? I don't think so. But it was different decades ago. Corporations are not people. I know, but like, okay. Here's, this has to do with other things that I've been talking to other people about, but like, okay. The USA and the Western world generally is in a relatively good position right now in terms of the quality of life of the people who live here, right? And a lot of that rests on the back of all the technological development that we did in, you know, let's say from the late 1800s to the somewhere in the mid 1900s, 1960, 1970, something like that. A lot of the things that we did during those times would be considered to be impossible today. Firstly, by institutions, but then also by regular people, because they don't see the institutions doing these things. And so as not only as a country as the USA, but as a complex of countries, the Western world, we seem, the effectiveness of our institutions seems to have degraded to the point where things that we would just go and do before now seem unthinkable, right? And given that that's the case, given that anybody can observe that that's the case, why does anybody think we'll continue to have increasing prosperity, right? Like right now, we're riding on the coattails of all this stuff. The fact that I have a mega fast supercomputer here, as I was trying to explain to people on Twitter and nobody ever gets it, this is all just one industry, right? It's the hardware industry. It's the people who make chips smaller and smaller. That has made all this prosperity, including like all these internet companies and all their billions, right? It's not due to software technology. Software technology has barely changed in decades. It's not increasing. It's in fact decreasing, right? So all of this is due to, it's just low-hanging fruit that we can easily pick up because our hardware technology has kept getting better, right? So that's going to slow down probably the increase of hardware technology. And we've never figured out how to increase software technology since, like, virtual memory was the last thing that we did that was a major software technology. And that's kind of a hardware technology too. So we haven't figured out like if the hardware people pass the baton to us and it's like, it's up to you guys, software guys, to make computers better, we're just going to drop the baton. We don't know how to carry it, right? We don't know how to make software better. It's barely ever been done in the history of software that software as a technology has been made better. And this is very clear. Very few people seem to see it, but if you understand what technological development is, it seems actually kind of obvious, right? But people don't see it because they say like, oh, but I could call an Uber on my phone. And it's like, yeah, that's a different thing. That's not software technology. So what am I trying to get at here? This started out maybe pointed and got rambly, but it's just, we don't really have a whole lot in the way of functional institutions in the United States today. And we should be very concerned about that. And we don't seem to be, except that for all the people freaking out that we have a terrible president, right? Or an embarrassing president, let's put it that way. I don't know if I can't say that he's more terrible than other presidents. He's more embarrassing than other presidents. But that's just like the degradation of the institution of our government is just, well, I can't even say that that's degraded, honestly, because I haven't seen, I don't know enough about the history of government, and I feel like it's been messy in the past as well. I don't know, man. But like, certainly all the technological things that we used to do, like, again, going to the moon landing, we can't land on the moon now, much less. So the equivalent of a moon landing announced in 2020 would be something insane. It would be like, before the decade is out, we're going to have a gene therapy that cures all diseases. Maybe not all diseases, but like, it would be something crazy like that. It wouldn't be going to the moon again. That's something we did a long time ago, right? It would be like something audacious and new. It would be like, look, okay, the topical one that would matter right now is to announce today, by the year 2028, carbon emissions will be at maintenance level, and we're going to throw all the money we can into developing alternative energy technologies for the entire world, to get these emissions down, or at least for the United States, right? Like something like that. I'm not even convinced that that's that hard. That's not the equivalent of the moon landing, because we actually know how to do that technologically. It's just a matter of will. Whereas going to the moon, we didn't totally know how to do it, right? That was harder. So I'm going to stop rambling because this isn't really going anywhere, but like, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. If you expect, like, okay, one of the items that makes it in the news all the time is how millennials are all upset because they're the first generation to like maybe not do better than their parents prosperity wise. And it's like, of course not. Like, of course that has to boomerang back around eventually if we don't maintain the level of institutional competence that we once did, right? Of course. It's not, you know, it's not necessarily any particulars of government policy with regard to taxation or, you know, what public works to fund or anything like that. If your institutions degrade, life's going to get worse. That's what happens. It's happened many times in history. So I don't know. I don't even remember how that rant started. Sorry. Yeah. Finding it hard to actually get better as a programmer because every company you work for using .NET or Node.js. So don't do that. Don't work for those companies. There's plenty of places that do real programming. Shareholders don't care how good a piece of code is. They only care how much money it will make them. See, that's the excuse that you hear from Hacker News people all the time. It's not a correct excuse. Okay? Because actually, in all other industries, if you can make a superior product for cheaper, then you win. That's got to be true in software. Why wouldn't that be true in software? If you can make a superior software product cheaper than your competition, you win, right? I think one reason why those dynamics don't appear to be in play is, again, because we're like a brush fire sweeping through all this low-hanging fruit that the hardware people made. Where like any shitty old website might be able to make money, right? Because nobody did a website for that thing before or whatever. But that's going to run out eventually. Right? Like we're burning potential energy, right? That potential energy is going to be exhausted eventually. And then I think we'll be back to regular market dynamics. So you can't look at the current Silicon Valley market dynamic as a thing that will go indefinitely or even make sense in retrospect. All right? It doesn't really make sense. It only makes sense because there's this immense amount of potential energy that we are burning, which is not necessarily bad. Like we're making efficiency gains. Like we don't print phone books and leave them at everybody's door anymore, right? That's a good thing that we don't do that. Both environmentally, economically, like all these things. Just capability wise, right? What I can do with my phone is way better than what I can do with a phone book. But recognize the situation for what it is, that we're burning through what was given to us almost for free. We're putting very little effort into burning that fuel and extracting value from it, and the fuel's going to be gone eventually, or it'll become harder and harder to come by. Let's put it that way. I don't know when, because we seem to have an immense amount of it, but it'll start running out eventually. See the same exact situation in the embedded world. Instead of optimizing stuff, people just assume that things are big and don't even think it can be better. They care, but they just do not know any better. Well, that's different. When people don't know any better, like I believe what you're saying, that like, look, most programmers want to be a good programmer, right? In the abstract. Like nobody wants to be a crappy programmer. But that knowing better or not knowing better is part of what I mean when I say institutions being functional and competent or not, right? Like a functional institution, if it's an educational institution, would educate people appropriately, right? And if it's a business institution, like a large company, it would ensure that the people that it hired like understood salient facts about what makes software high quality or low quality, right? But nobody can do that right now because there's so much confusion generally about what software quality even is, both in education and in industry, right? So there can't be a standard because nobody has the competence. It's not something that we have. Do I think that this might just be an inherent problem that comes with increased scale? I don't know. The moon landing was pretty big, and we did that okay. Manhattan Project was pretty big. We did that okay. Am I still skeptical of the scalability of Moore's Law? Of course. Of course. I mean, why? I don't know why you're asking that. Moore's Law already slowed down a couple times, okay? Computers are still getting faster, but not nearly as much as they were in the 1990s. The rate of progress in computer speeds today is much slower than what it was when I got into the game industry. We used to buy new computers every 6 months because for like $4,000 in 1996 money, which was a lot, because it would be so much faster for development. Like we would compile a lot faster. We would run our game a lot faster. We'd be able to run the debug build of the game at a substantially better speed 6 months later than we could have. That's not how it is anymore, right? Go look at some graphs of Moore's Law. You'll see it was going up and then it kind of, because clock rates are not really going up much anymore. Clock rates have maybe doubled about once in, 15, 18 years. That's not Moore's Law level of increment. It would be better if hardware stops growing. This happened many times in history. People make brilliant games for ZX Spectrum now. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think software quality would go up if hardware stopped changing. I mean, also, just like, I don't know, if we just, I don't know. I'm not gonna, that's a whole separate rant about operating systems that I'm not going to make. Do I support the Green New Deal? Because that's basically what that is. No, the Green New Deal is not what I said. The Green New Deal is just a statement of intent. And also had some crazy stuff about giving money to people unwilling to work or whatever. That was nutballs. No, okay, the Green New Deal is an example of something that would be produced by a non-functional institution, because it doesn't say anything about how to achieve these things, right? It's not a plan. It's just these are the priorities, all right? At that level of government, if you're going to lay something out, you need to have an actual plan. Which is not to say that plan would be hard. Because you don't know, if it's a big project, you don't necessarily know at the beginning, but half of the plan might say, look, we're going to pay for this by dropping, by dropping Social Security funding for a while, or by dropping military funding for a while, right? Something like that. That's the beginning of a plan. Look, we're going to shift resources from here to there over this schedule, and we're going to put these people in charge, whatever. But that's not what the Green New Deal was. So it's not... Yeah, it's not a thing. How about if we go back to technical questions? Because those are things, or just programming. Which places, every place you say is a bad place. Which company has good software and cares? Smaller companies usually. You are a marketing major. That's not the way. Okay, look, if you're an undergrad, you don't know that much about the real world. So sorry. I'm a marketing major is not a very convincing line. Secondly, I can't tell what you're talking about because there's no context, because it's way back in the chat. Oh God, people are lecturing me about marketing. Guys, geez, okay, I'm not going to have that argument. Not going to have that argument. Is that actually true? It seems like a lot of people don't really concern themselves with programming, even though their job is programmer. They seem to spend a lot of time doing things that have nothing to do with programming. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's functional institutions. Like, you would say there actually are a lot of programmers who don't care if they're a good programmer. Yeah, that's a little bit different from what I was saying. I said nobody wants to be bad, but like not actually thinking about whether you're good or bad, or not actually trying to hone your skills. I agree. I agree that that's, and in fact, it's worse than that because, you know, I've called the younger generation out on this a few times and they always get mad, but like there's there's an anti-competence aesthetic that millennials and whoever the next generation after millennials have. There's an anti-competence aesthetic because everybody's supposed to be recognized as being equally good, right? And that leads to dysfunctional institutions in a certain sense again. Like I think if you go back to like what you said about there being lots of programmers who don't concern themselves with the quality of programming skill. I was young back then, but I don't think that was true in the 1970s. I don't think it was really true in the 1980s. I think that's something that has developed as the profession has grown very quickly. I mean, there might have been pockets of, I mean, certainly I'm not saying everybody in the 70s or 80s was like a really good programmer, far from it, but I'm saying there wasn't a confusion about what the profession was and what you should be doing all day if your name tag on your desk said you were a programmer, right? Whereas now, yeah, maybe someone works at Google and they just like read Facebook all day and they think they're doing their job or something. It's really weird now. And, you know, again, like Hacker News kids get mad when they go take the Google test and the Google people ask them to do a basic binary tree manipulation and they can't do it. Like they're angry at Google for giving them that test. So there's this great confusion about like what is programming supposed to be today. And I think that's partly the fact that there's so much easy money that nobody cares, but it's also partly this generational thing where because programming grew so fast and most of the new people into the field are younger people, they brought this aesthetic with them and are dominating the field effectively by numbers with that new aesthetic, whatever it is, right? And I don't think it's, I mean, you can't be an engineer and have an anti-competence aesthetic. It doesn't make sense. Your bridge is going to fall down, right? So also Moore's law is about transistor density and it no longer doubles every 18 months, full stop. Yeah, so technically Moore's law is about transistor density, yes. But usually, colloquially, people mean how fast their computer is in terms of doing things, right? Which was sort of, what were the three components of that were, you know, processor clock rate times the number of instructions you could do per clock, I guess times the number of cores or no, times, I don't know, something like that. But basically, you know, clock rates stopped going up, which was one of the ingredients of that triumvirate, and the other two are not going up very quickly. A process shrinkage, right? Because process shrinkage, it lets you either fit more cores or just more execution units and do more out of order things. Although the whole out of order situation sort of happened later in the progression of Moore's law, so whatever. You can use more transistors per clock, right? I guess maybe that's the way you'd put it. Anyway, yes, like anybody who knows what's going on knows that Moore's law is slowing down. That doesn't mean it will completely stop ever, but it might. Like, we might just hit a point where we can't get gains anymore, you know? We might plateau. All right, I'm scrolling past a lot of chat. Any sort of field you'd suggest for such companies? I mean, some game companies are still good. That's the field that I know, right? Some game companies still do serious engineering. You still have the danger that there's a bunch of bozos there too, just like anywhere. I'm sure there are other industries where you can still do quality programming, but I don't have firsthand knowledge of those other industries, right? I have stayed in games because I like programming, and games are very challenging, and they're interesting to program, and the quality of what you make matters on the screen, right? So those are all interesting things. Where do I see my language being useful most? Just game development or any other fields like web development? Well, I'm not thinking about web development at all. General systems programming, yes. I'm sure you could use this language to do web stuff. But like, frankly, almost anything would be an improvement over the current web programming situation. So, yeah. I'll have you know I watched Mad Men. All right. Was thinking that machine learning was the latest big progress in software. Yeah, I say that in my talk that I gave a few months ago. The thing is, so even look at machine learning, right? So yes, some technological advance happened there. Firstly, it doesn't apply to the rest of software technology. It's like a little cul-de-sac. Some technology was improved. It doesn't improve the rest of the technology. But then also look at the actual field of machine learning. In that field, there are a very small number of people who actually understand what's going on, who actually are capable of working on the algorithms and improving the technology, right? The vast majority of the field is a combination of scam artists and people who just want to apply the black box machine learning software without understanding what it does, okay? That's not the sign of a functional, competent institution, really, right? It's not like most of the people out there doing machine learning actually could make a machine learning algorithm from scratch. They probably couldn't, all right? So, like, how much of a good sign can you take that as, exactly? What are my thoughts about the VFX industry? I don't know anything about it. Basically CUDA cores, yeah. What audio file format do you guys usually use in-house? I mean, for big sounds, I still use Ogg Vorbis. I tried using Opus on the Witness, and I thought it sounded like crap, even though they claim it doesn't. That's the weird thing. I don't like the what's it called? The Ogg people. The main guy behind that like writes all these articles about how your ear can't tell the difference between different things, obviously. But like, I tried using their new thing that they claimed was better, and I could tell that it was bad for the same bit rate. For the same bit rate, it produced substantially worse audio than Vorbis did. So I backed off that shipping the witness and went back to Vorbis. So we still use that for compressed big sounds. For small sounds, we use wave files, which later in the witness, I made an adaptive PCM decoder because that's very fast. It could be like a little tight loop. So we do uncompressed and ADPCM compressed wave files. Most people couldn't write a C compiler from scratch and can use C just fine. I think most people who program C competently could write a C compiler. I mean, come on, it's not that hard. Like the super best C compiler, maybe not, but a basic C compiler, at least in Denmark, it seems that established game companies only want people with job experience. Yeah, and that's the reason for that. Look, if game companies could hire people straight out of school with no game experience and have them hit the ground running and do a good job, they would. They absolutely would. But the problem is it doesn't really work because people come out of school not knowing the right things about how to program. So... yeah. Won't a lack of competence be a natural byproduct of increasing complexity and specialization? I mean, you could factor it into different parts, right? So certainly, if you make a thing more complicated, if you increase the number of skill points required to master something, then yes, less people will be able to master it, or they will master it less well. But what I'm also saying is that the average number of skill points held by each person is going down over time. Those two things are both happening. Not independently, actually. Because as a system is more complicated, it's harder to learn the right lessons from it, right? You just have to believe what people told you, and again, if your institutions aren't functional, etc. Okay, whatever. That hasn't been a very good rant at all. We're going to go back to programming. Someday I might have a more coherent version of that particular rant. Right now, it's just thoughts that are swimming around, mostly independently. Let's do some code. So... okay, eliminated that flag. We scrubbed all the entities. So there's some code for sure. So basically, let me show you what I'm going to be doing now. This is why ivory tower education is important. Education title toward jobs. We'll always teach domain knowledge versus real education of how computer works. But ivory tower education is completely off the rails. So today, what we consider ivory tower education, I think, is in most cases actually not important. because it's cargo culting of things that used to be good sometimes. Okay, so right now when we make levels, we have a separate entity called wall for each one of these blocks, which is fine if your level is like this size, and it's easy for authoring because I do all these things, right? But as your levels get really big, you don't really want individual entities like that. And it's made worse by the fact that each one of these is a separate text file on disk, right? So I've been starting to make an entity type that's just a bunch of these put together, you know, in a 3D volume, and there's a bit field that says which squares are occupied. We're not using that in levels yet, but what I started doing is using that in the actual gameplay, or not that exact thing, but the world that you run around in. Until yesterday, the gameplay code used to do queries in space for these wall entities to see, for example, if you're blocked from moving there or whatever, or if you can stand on top of it, right? And I'm switching that over to checking this new like 3D grid volume bit field thing. And so right now, after you load a level, it theoretically goes through and takes all of these and transfers them into the bit field. So these still exist in the world right now, but they don't, by the time we're done, they won't need to exist for the gameplay to function at all. And then we can convert them into the more batchy object, right? So I'm going to go through and eliminate more cases that specifically look for this entity type and instead can query the grid. So I'm just going to do a few of those at a time and then run a new Benny test and whatnot. I think we're committed. Yeah. All right. So I believe I have some things marked :wall in comments. Yeah. So here it's like, hey, this is a thing called can_go, which is sort of a monster function that we call whenever anything wants to go anywhere. And because our game is really complicated, this isn't how many parameters it has. Those are parameters. Those are return values. It'll probably get simplified eventually to remove a few of these. But yeah. So in theory, I should just be able to comment this out because, so we already, this is wall_at function, which is the one I wrote today at work. We call it up here. And we already say, look, you can't go. So we don't need to check a wall here. So in theory, I could just comment that out, and it should be fine. Find heavy thing at. I don't know why that is wall. That was weird. Who calls that? Line 2336. Oh. Yeah, I think I could put this in find heavy thing at, but that's a little, it's confusing, I guess. I don't know, I could do it either way. And then this one, find transmutables at, well, we already established that we took wall out of a lot of that code, so we should be able to remove it here. So I'm just going to comment these 3 out, and we're going to run a Benny test. Let's actually release build that. And then I guess I can rant more, because it takes a while to run this test. I don't know. That wasn't a very good rant. But that's how we develop thoughts. Let me see, are there any more of these that... Yeah, so there, that's about dragons. So this one is going to be a little more involved. We're going to want to put, if we just comment this out, then we're not paying attention to walls in this loop at all. So we're going to want to say, you know, is wall at cursor. Actually, we could do here. Well, we'll do it in a minute. We're just being very conservative, taking a few steps, running a new Benny test every time. Why are you looking for a wall at evaluate non-monster gates? Evaluate non-monster gates. Okay, because one of the things that could happen is that, for example, you have a monster holding down a switch, right? And then the druid turns the monster into a tree. Oh, that used to make a wall, but it doesn't make a wall anymore. I guess in theory there's no case, since these are now for static walls, I don't think there's actually a case where that could happen, because you can't turn something into a wall. The only way it could happen is if you somehow moved a switch into a wall. Like if it was mounted on something that, like if the switch was mounted on a crystal, there was a through beam shining on the crystal, so somebody pushed it into a wall. That would then cause the switch to be pressed here, but it probably shouldn't. And that's a very broken case that we probably shouldn't ever put in a level anyway, because it wouldn't really make that much sense. Yeah, so Casey brings up a good point that teaching is in the stagnant sector, right? This is one reason why I like video games. Like, maybe I should just stop making entertainment games and just start a new company that does, like, not what you would think of as educational games, but like the actual good application of games to education, which wouldn't really look like current educational games. Like, I think that there's a tremendous amount of progress to be made there, and that scales. I mean, the thing is, like, you know, MOOCs scale and YouTube scales and all that, but the thing is, not that many people watch Leonard Susskind's physics lectures on YouTube. Why? Because not that many people really want to learn things, I guess. I don't know. Like on the one hand, as a kid, I was miserable in school. I didn't like being there. On the other hand, I think if you don't make education compulsory, most people won't get educated very much. I mean, maybe you don't come out of public school with much of an education anyway, so it doesn't matter. I don't know, man. But like, I forget who made this point, but it's a very, very salient point that like universities are about signaling, right? They're about social status and signaling. They're not really about learning. And the reason you could tell that they're not about learning is that it's not very hard to show up on a campus and audit courses. Maybe Feynman said this. It's not very hard to show up on a campus and audit courses. It actually is a little harder today now that everyone has electronic security doors. But like, you could just go and show up at a lecture and sit there and see the lecture and then do the homeworks that they assign and learn. And it would be very cheap, and almost nobody does that, right? But plenty of people are complaining about student debt. Like, why? Like, all these freaking 20-somethings complaining about how the future is so untenable because they have too much student debt. Why didn't you just go to college for free? You could have. Why didn't you do that? And the answer is because it's not about learning. It's about signaling. So, because school is about signaling, if we provide something with video games that's maybe effective at education, maybe it won't work because the signal is not good, right? Maybe it won't be adopted. I mean, maybe people will still play them because they have to be good games. It's very loud right now. I don't know, man. I'm in a very incoherent mood today. Debt is not about learning. You need a degree to get hired. This is stupid, but this is a reality. I don't know. I mean, in software, that's not really true. Or at least it didn't used to be. Maybe it is now. But like, if you spent the 4 years that people spend at a university, like, I mean, this is a little different about than what I just said about going to college for free. But if you spent that 4 years just working hard at programming, you would have a very impressive skill set and very impressive demos to show people. Way more impressive than somebody coming out of a university. So I don't know. Like, I think not that many people have tried that. It was Robin Hanson on the 80,000 Hours podcast who said that. Okay. He might have been quoting someone from before, but maybe he originated that. Hanson says everything is about signaling, so it probably was him. It's critical to remember that programming is basically the only sophisticated job that does not require a degree. Other jobs don't do it out of necessity, but simply as a supply limiter. Yeah. I don't disagree with that. What would be my approach to educational games? It's too... I can't explain it in a short amount of time. Modern software interview is replacing the degree as an artificial supply limiter. Yeah, the problem with that is that software interviews, like the first pass interview at somewhere like Google, is, it's outsourced to like a recruiting firm, and it's basically really, really low quality questions. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure that that's going to go to a good place. Maybe it will. Okay, we finished. No more levels failed. So let's do a couple more. Let's get rid of this. And here I'm going to do this thing. We're going to ignore the fact that there was a wall. We're going to say that trees stop things. So here, this is like if we go off the grid, or is wall at... You know what? I should just have is wall at return true if you're outside the wall bound. Ah, that's a little bit different. The problem is the space of this grid. Like, so this position to index gives a 2D grid index or -1 if you're outside the grid. But these grid spaces are different. And I can't actually. We might want to think about incorporating this into is wall at so that like right now by default, if you go outside the area in which wall entities are marking up a thing, you can go there. It's empty space. And you'd really rather kind of have defined level bounds that's like completely solid outside that, because we have beams that teleport you through things and whatever. Except maybe not on ocean levels. On ocean levels, it's you want to go forever. So I don't know. We need to think about that a little bit. But here we're just going to say, look, if there's a wall in this wall grid, it blocks the dragon segment. And then this boat thing is just it's broken anyway. This is just a one-off script trigger about skipping stones and fixing your boat. And we're going to want to replace that with like a higher production quality, some kind of animation. So I'm not worried about that. Okay, we're just gonna do those. And we're going to kick off another Benny test. Why am I being so slow about this? Because it's just the mood I'm in. This hasn't, basically, I think this has been a day that my brain is resting. Because like my IQ is substantially, reduced today. So actually it wasn't true during the afternoon. But like ever since about 4 p.m. I've been a stupid person. So I'm doing the things that I can effectively do when I'm a stupid person, which is relatively mechanical things. Which is actually an important part of productivity. Like do what you can do when you can do it, or what will be effective for you to do when you can do it. And theoretically speaking, how would the market respond to a sudden influx of tens of thousands of people flooding universities for free educations? I don't know. I don't know if he's been outed, but someone in the chat teaches at a university. So, or has, I don't know currently, but has. Hey, Casey, if you're still in the chat, was the insect apocalypse still happening when you went to Las Vegas? How was that? Yeah. Casey might be gone. There was some stuff happening in Las Vegas. Did Casey go to DEF CON? I don't know. I don't feel like DEF CON is Casey's kind of event, but maybe. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah. I've heard that phrase. Don't I think Git was kind of software technology? A little bit, but not that much. No. So, okay, so on the one hand, I have multiple different directions of feeling about this whole millennial student debt crisis. So first of all, it is a real thing. It sucks that there's all these people with all this student debt. I do agree that sort of societally we told everybody to go to college, and it would be great if you do. That said, like if you're supposedly an adult, once you turn 18, you're supposed to be an adult and you're supposed to be able to make your own life decisions. And it's your responsibility, right? So if you decided to pay $200,000 to get a sociology degree, I mean, that was your decision. So you shouldn't exactly be blaming other people for it. If you are, I see that as a little bit of a character weakness, you know? That said, it's not like societally we were helping people make good decisions around that. So it's not totally the student's fault. But the student also has to accept responsibility for what they frickin' did when they were an adult. Even if you're young when you start at college, I was 17 when I started college. I turned 18 within a couple months. All right. All that said, it's also, I mean, so on the one hand, it sucks to have all that much debt. I think it's unproductive. I think many of these students wasted their time in college, or at least if not their time, even if they learned things that were good, those things aren't 5 times as good as they were when I was in college, but you have 5 to 10 times the debt. So like what happened there? Obviously, we, you know, as I was saying, that the educational institutions are increasingly dysfunctional, and the increasing cost is part of that. But it's also just them responding to a market. Like, if a bunch of people show up and say, "Hey, I got to go to college because I have to. I'll pay any amount of money that you want. I'm just going to college." Of course they'll charge more. What do you think is going to happen, right? On the other hand, the fact that you can't discharge that debt through bankruptcy sucks and is stupid. We really should repeal that law. That said, even if you owed a couple $100,000, I don't think it's a good idea to declare bankruptcy because that affects the rest of your life. But you should be able to. It's complicated. You think you heard cicadas and trees, but maybe they're locusts. Okay. No, if you look up pictures from like the week before you went to Vegas, they're just all over the ground. Like all over the place. So maybe you missed out on that, fortunately. There is value in a liberal arts degree, just not in getting a job from it. Maybe, but like, okay, if you use the term liberal arts degree, like that means a different thing in 2019 than it meant in 1980. All right. Because again, culture has shifted tremendously. The things that are taught in liberal arts classes now are very different from the things that were taught 40 years ago in liberal arts classes. You can assert that that education is as good, but is it? Are you really getting that much money worth out of it now? Or are you just repeating the assertion that liberal arts educations are good? Obviously, it's a false assertion at some point. Like, you can redefine liberal arts to be something completely and obviously unproductive. How close are we to that? I don't know, but probably closer than we used to be. What is my thought on using the scripting language outside of game industry? This is not a scripting language. This is a real programming language. So yes, you could use it outside of... Uh-oh, we have more failures. That said, I'm not surprised if there were 10, but 11, I'm not sure about 11. See, the problem is we have a couple like timing-based flakiness failures that I haven't chased down yet. Whoops, this is the wrong to-do. Okay, I did this one. Arrangement's supposed to be broken. Wizard drop's supposed to be broken. 2 half togglers, cascade. End of mowers V3 I don't think is supposed to be broken. And that involves trees. Why is this broken? I don't remember the solution to this level. Oh, yeah. How do I even do this? Oh, I can push it out of the way this way. Oh, we want that button to not be pushed, probably. All right. Wait, why is this not opening? That's weird. That might be that new thing that I broke. Like, this yellow block should be opening and closing. It doesn't break the level, but it broke the replay for some reason. I mean, it's probably set up correctly. Flavor 0. Flavor 0. Yeah, I mean, find heavy object at. heavy thing at. Well, we were going to take this out anyway, so let's just rebuild the game and yeah, we'll just rebuild the game and just see if it behaves better. Why is it taking so long to load? What is even happening? That was really weird. Usually if we do something slow. All right. They're like it works on the other block. Well, I think we step in the debugger and try to discover some things. See, that's why I was running the tests, because at least now I had a likely thing. The problem might not actually be in that function, but it might. Okay, so I'm just going to walk onto this, and then what function was that? Evaluate non-monster gates. So we want this. We want the switch that's flavor 0. There's only 2 switches, so we can just walk through it. Evaluate non-monster gates. That's a bad sign. Why don't we have a... Uh-oh. All right. Okay, so I stepped off the gate. So we set this to false. What flavor is this? God damn it. Our debug info doesn't work. This might be my fault. I did some stuff the other day that broke, or that might have broke it. I mean, we have grid. Oh my God, this level is huge. I thought I scanned all the... Fudge. Okay, so we have to figure out... So when I was doing the wall bit mask thing today, I had a log message if there were walls like way far out, and it turned out there were some levels. There was a level early on that probably had a wall around these coordinates that then, I would copy that level to another one and keep doing work. So there were all these levels with stuff way out there, and so I scrubbed them. That log message doesn't go off anymore. But this seems to indicate there's some other gameplay object. Like walls weren't the only things. So we need to do a scrub for, because because we don't really have well-defined level dimensions right now, we sort of look at what all the gameplay objects are to determine the level size. So like literally our gameplay grid is 600,000 squares for a lot of these levels, which it really shouldn't be. Okay, so we won't do that yet because I want to finish this wall thing. So anyway, I can't tell what, this is what I get for working on a programming language. So because this declaration is in the for loop or something, it's not getting hit. Oh, it's probably, okay, I know what it is. On stream some weeks ago, for cleanliness, when we were doing the macro stuff, I made a new scope that iterator declarations get put into. Now they don't live in the body scope, which is where they used to live, and they don't live in the parent scope. They live in an in-between scope. And our debug outputter probably doesn't know about that scope because I didn't put it in. So that is going to make this annoying. I'm going to call this variable no check-in s is a switch, and we're just going to assign that to s. And then we should be able to see it in the debugger, hopefully. It's what I get for working on a programming language that was not made by Bjarne Strostrup. Okay, so I'm on it, and we're going to put this breakpoint, and then I'm going to step off it. Okay. No check-in s is flavor 0. So this is the one that we actually care about. I should just say pressed is find heavy thing at whatever. I guess this used to be more complicated. So we didn't find a heavy thing. So it is not pressed. And then we go through the other switch, which we don't care about. Wait, there's 3 switches? One of the things way out in space might be a switch, or maybe it's buried in a wall somewhere. All right. Oh, shoot, we're not going to be able to see the gate either. Okay, hold on. This is a gate. That's going to be equal to gate. And then we'll do this again. All right. Okay, so now, though, when I step through that switch loop, the Nintendo switch loop. Okay, let's take this out. I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm actually off the switch in that save, so I could have just stepped through there. But whatever. So I step off. Okay, first switch is, again, it's going to be flavor 0, I bet. Yep. Okay. Second switch, also flavor 0. Position 10, 11. No. Position 8, 12. Let me write this down. 10, 11, 8, 12. It's fine, though, because if only one switch is not pressed, neither should. But I feel like there's one embedded in the geometry of the level. Oh, yeah, OK. Here's what's going on. There's a rogue switch embedded in the geometry of the level under one of those walls. We took out the check for walls pressing switches down. So now the level's broken when it's not intended to be, right? So I bet under one of these there's a Nintendo switch somewhere. It might even be invisible. What were the coordinates? 10, 11, 8, 12. Let's actually do this. Switch, select all, list or panel. We have 3 switches. This one. Oh. Yeah, OK. It's a paste error from a previous level. It's just hanging out down there. This used to be getting pressed all the time because there's a wall there. But we took that out and bam. All right. So now if I play the test, it's a debug build. Tests play really slow in debug for some reason. Okay, it succeeded. So our code was fine. The level was broken with an extra Nintendo Switch. Do I see any value at all in social interactions and experiments in going to college? You seem to be completely dismissive about the importance of confronting your knowledge and personality with similarly aged people at a crucial development stage of life. No, that's what you just said is important. That's very important to do. What I'm saying is college is not really anymore the place to do that. This is what you have to be aware of. What college is has been changing over time, all right? It is now a product where the customer is the student, and the customer usually doesn't seem to care that much about education quality, really, even though they'll say they will, right? So colleges are evolving into something that is not the ideal thing that you just said, right? They used to be more like that, I think, but they never were totally that. So yes, it's important to confront your knowledge and stuff with similarly aged people, but also non-similarly aged people. I'm not sure that it matters that much the age of the people, except that that's how we tend to structure our educational system. Maybe that's a negative of it. Do I have ideas of puzzle games that aren't, quote, literal puzzles, or do I feel it's not relevant? I don't know what literal puzzle means. What would be a puzzle game that isn't literal puzzles? We deleted a rogue switch. So anyway, oh, we've got our no check-in S's here that I have to remove. You'll note, so this is a thing about debugging, right? I use the debugger just enough to make the thing click in my brain about what must be wrong. I didn't actually have to tediously step looking at every variable and decipher from the state variables of the code what was wrong, right? I was able to tell you right away, oh, this must be it. I wasn't that far from getting there just by looking at the variables, but I didn't totally have to. And you want that part of your brain engaged all the time, because sometimes, like, that's a skill like anything else. Like, jumping to the conclusion of what's wrong is a very important skill. The faster you can do it, the better. Sometimes, if it's an algorithmic problem, you'll see the problem while you're typing the original code and you never have to debug it, right? And this makes you much more efficient. I don't know. It's just a thing. I felt it important to say that. Okay, let me get rid of no check-in S, no check-in gate, no check-in S. I hope I didn't delete any code that we actually need. It still compiles. That's a sign. All right. Great. Oh, let's just go pressed is find heavy thing at. I could, if I was being squirrely, paste this into there, but I don't tend to like to do that. I like to assign, you know. It makes it more inspectable and debuggable, but it also makes it more readable, I think. Can you debug something with a conditional breakpoint so I can see when it comes up? Okay, there are a number of cases when I do this. I could just explain to you and you'll know, right? There are a number of cases when I do this, but one of the most important ones, one of the most common ones is, for example, when I'm working on the compiler, all right? And let's say there's a bug. Like this problem that I just had where this variable didn't show up in the debugger, right? Let's say I didn't know why that was happening. And let's say it didn't even happen in the whole program, but it happened in this one for statement or whatever. And I knew that because let's pick an even more basic thing. Let's just say if I do a certain thing, it crashes in the back end. Like we're trying to do LLVM code generation and it crashes. And so I go in the debugger and I say, where does it crash? And it's crashing generating the machine code instructions because the nodes for the program are set up in some way that's not supposed to be legal, right? And I don't want to have to assert for it in the back end or check for it to avoid the crash because the front end shouldn't be producing that, right? So I need to go back in time, way back in time, like, because there's millions of nodes in this program, right? And so like, which one has this problem, right? Well, I have a serial number on every node. I break here all the time. You might even, whoops, I'm in the wrong program. Let me go to the compiler so I can just show you. But I have this standard thing that I call every time I make a node, and it sets a serial number on that node. There's actually a few different serial sequences for different nodes, right? But so I have this thread local serial number, and I call this, right? And that gets called anytime I allocate something. And so if you run in no threading mode, then in principle, this is a completely reproducible sequence. So if a particular for loop crashes the back end, I almost said the black end, which is probably a movie starring Black Dynamite. I can look at this number, and then, for example, I can go here and set a data breakpoint here. I could say, conditions, thread local serial is equal to whatever. I do this all the time, right? Then when this is constructed, it still might be way too early. And I can't really step through, like often I can't step through till the place where this variable change happens because I don't know where it happens. But now I have a beginning where it happens and an end where it happens, right? I have the point of allocation and the point of crash. And the mal-configured data happens somewhere in between. So I can use a conditional breakpoint here. And then once this is allocated, I can set a data breakpoint on the memory, right? I want to say, when does this field get set to the bad thing? Sometimes if the program is very simple, I don't need to do that. I'll know, like, oh yeah, there's only one or two places that do this. I can go look there. But sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm not sure exactly, because maybe that field got copied from something else that I don't know what it is exactly. So basically you bookend the situation and set a data breakpoint and break on it, right? And that's frustrating sometimes because both conditional and data breakpoints are a little slow in Visual Studio, although data breakpoints tend to be faster than conditional breakpoints because you just don't tend to touch that piece of data that often, I think. Does that make sense? Does that explanation? Yeah. I do that in games too, but probably not as much. But that's like a large percentage of the compiler debugging that I do. Basically, you actually use both features at once, conditional plus data. Not always, sometimes. Sometimes. I mean, I'd say I use conditional most often. I use data less often. And sometimes I use data without conditional. But But a lot of the time, the exact scenario that I just said happens. A puzzle that the player don't see the structures, I guess, like in The Witness, you're solving obvious individual puzzles, but it's not so obvious that you're solving something with a deeper meaning. The question is if there's any gain in making the things that... So you want to be solving something that is somehow not one discrete thing. That would be an interesting thing to try. The thing is that for the later parts of The Witness to work, those early parts have to be there. Those early, very distinguishable puzzles have to be there. If you were to try to make a game that didn't have that, where you were somehow slowly decoding the meaning of things, everything in the environment, that could be an interesting game. It would be hard to design. It would be harder to make good than The Witness was, I think. Which isn't to say you couldn't do it, but it would be challenging. A big part of what makes puzzles work is that people are able to read them and not be confused about what is the actual puzzle and what is random noise around the puzzle. And if you make something completely not discrete and recognizable, then you mess with people's ability to decode signal from noise. And that makes every puzzle a lot harder because you're just never sure what you should be thinking about. And it makes them less pleasant to solve too. Like there's a kind of a confusion in the mind that happens. It's like irritating when you're trying to understand something and you don't know what's exactly relevant and what's not. And so I think it would be a little less fun too, which isn't to say that it couldn't be as fun. It's just you have to recognize that you're getting rid of something good. So you have to replace it with something else that is as good or better. Do you see what I'm saying? This is actually something that people very often fail to do when they design games. Is they make a change. They're like, I want to make a game that's like X, but it's different in way Z. And it's like, okay, well, in the process of doing that, you're removing some things from that old game design. And those things had utility. So you have to be honest to yourself about how much utility they brought to the table. And you have to make sure that you supply that utility in a different way, that much or more. And that's not necessarily easy. In fact, it's usually not easy. So this is why a lot of games don't have good design. You know, yeah, a lot of games that are trying to do new things don't have good design. How do I feel about Yahtzee giving The Witness a bad review despite largely not discovering a secondary meaning? Look, lots of internet pundits gave the game a bad review. They're all wrong. I know it's a good game, and I think, okay, here's a thing that has been lost. If we're talking about loss of competence in institutions and education and stuff. There used to be well understood a difference between enjoyment and appreciation of an art, right? And I think music people still understand this to some degree, right? If you understand an art, then you should be able to appreciate works in it. Like you should be like, if I really understand music, I can listen to a song that's like not really my jam. I don't really like this song, but I can see what's interesting compositionally about the song, right? Like I can see what the guy was doing. I don't like it, but I get it. I see what it is. I see why he thought that was interesting. I see how that fits into the global scheme of music, right? That's appreciation. Modern internet game pundits do not have that for the most part. They just talk about what they liked or don't, and they equate what they like or don't with whether something is good or not, all right? They don't have this more sophisticated notion of appreciation for the most part. So you can't listen to what they say, or I won't say you can't listen to what they say, but you're participating in the decline of our institutions if you take that rhetoric too seriously that comes from the internet, all right? Do you see what I'm saying? If you want to understand games, you need to develop a sense of appreciation that applies to both things that you enjoy and things that you don't enjoy. Oh, hey, George, what's up? What's up, George? The problem is that there aren't as many people that think games are art. Well, it doesn't have to even be high art for what I said to apply. Like craftsmanship. Games are obviously craft works that are very sophisticated. You should be able to appreciate that, you know, somebody's blanket was very expertly hand woven, even if you don't like the colors, right? That's like a thing. Okay, I'm gonna grab a drink. Actually, I'm gonna put some tea on, and then we'll continue with what we're doing. All right. So I'm going to look for more things marked wall. And then after I run out of those, there's probably some other things. Okay, this is marked colon wall. This is, oh, if somebody's supported, whoops, I just deleted my colon wall accidentally. So if somebody's supported, so we check if there is a wall under them. So, and I think we already, no, we didn't. Okay. So before we do the find, we probably should just do the is wall at, because that's cheaper. So we're going to check the position below you. If there's a wall there, we're just going to return true with no support entity. And then we don't even have to do the query. Wait. Okay, this is, hold on. Okay, there's two separate. This is for things you're inside or that you're on. So a flat thing like a lily or whatever. Okay. So you can be embedded in things if there's a through beam on you, or if you got in there with a through beam and then it moved. So here's what we're going to do. If there's a wall on you or below you, you're supported either way. Right? And then we don't have to check for it here, and we don't have to check for it here. And as a bonus, we get a performance boost. Except maybe we should allow teleport then disappear out of a wall. I don't think this will ever happen. No, because, okay, you have to, I think that's fine. So, and then this one is inside wall. Well, so again, we search for wall or tree here. So we're just going to say, if is wall at e.entity manager, e.position, return true. Okay, so this is stuck inside wall. I'm just going to have this call this because I don't, yeah. If we're not inside a wall, we can't be stuck inside a wall. So that gets rid of all of this. I don't know why I structured that differently. Okay. We're just going to get rid of this deep nesting. Okay, so if we have through beams shining on us, okay, this seems fine. Who knows, but it seems fine. Okay, the rover, we already commented that out long ago. So I'm going to run another Benny test, and then we'll check this in. Getting hungry. I might have to make more sausage. C++ should add a shrugging guy operator. What does the remove keyword do? It removes an element from the array that you're currently iterating over. Okay. So that said, now my goal is to search through the game for other things. Okay, there's several other things involving walls that I hadn't marked. So after we do a check-in, we'll start hitting some of these. And that's just in this file. Once we finish this file, I kind of need to search other places. I mean, wall, do not ignore case. Okay, this is added strings, that doesn't count. Oh, it's mostly added strings. Okay. Editor, we don't need to mess with. That happens later when we change the actual entity thing. Old. Walls is, of course, the new stuff. So there's actually not that much. It's like we sort of have to look at everything from here to there, which really isn't bad. Really not very much. And even some of that, like, these don't matter, this doesn't matter, those don't matter. Okay. So, not a whole lot that we really need to look at. And a significant amount of that is even in the file that I already just looked at and said there's only a couple things left. This is good. Yeah, there was a guy on Twitter the other day. So as often happens, somebody was mentioning compiled C++. Somebody was complaining about C++ compile times, and they were referencing this language as like something that proves that you could compile things faster. And one of the guys from the C++ committee was like being tweeted at. And like the guy literally replied, I mean, not literally, because I don't remember the exact words, but he said, look, man, we just make the semantics of the language. It's not our fault that the compilers are all slow. He actually said that. He actually said that. I might take the promised one test out of the rotation eventually. It just takes a long time. It's useful to have it there. I don't think it even completes successfully right now, though. It's good as a crash test, though. Did the latest Visual Studio actually improve compile times? I don't know. Dude, there was a version of Visual Studio. I mean, they've made improvements. There was a version around like 2008 or something, a couple years after they'd still rewritten it in .NET, where there was just like a 0.8-second delay for every file that would be compiled. Like, I don't even know what it was doing, but like, you'd wait almost a second per file. And they fixed that. They fixed that and made a big improvement. Still was slower than the original non.NET C# compiler, though, system. If I don't put sleep 800, how will you improve things later? Yeah, that is a valid tactic for improving things later. Sleep 800. So this is wall parameter is not even a thing. Like nobody calls that. And I know this. Okay, I'm not going to mess that up. So is wall is just not even a thing. Do we use that? No. I wish you could convert to rocks sometimes. Okay. Uh-oh. What's going on? Wait, did we finish and then we finished on that level now? That's weird. Oh, we have some fails. I broke some things. Uh-oh. I didn't feel like I did anything that should break anything. Let's see, barred walk. Oh, that one. This one's complicated. Let's not do that. Okay, hold on. Before I lose this out of the log, let's... I broke some dongers. Wait, bombs away. That's a simple level. Somewhat. Interesting. Whoa, okay, I just broke is supported for things like that orange beam does not think it is supported. That's a really basic breakage. I am shocked that only 4 extra levels broke with that happening. Why does it not think it's supported? Wait, what did I just edit recently? I don't even remember. I thought we tested after that whole thing about the below me position. Maybe we didn't. I mean, what if I just, okay, I didn't fall there. I'm not falling. That's not even the right coordinates. I'm just going to remove stuff from under just in case. I don't think that's the problem though. Yeah. So maybe it's just certain inanimate objects. No. So it's not like that broken. Interesting. Let me see one other newly broken Skyfall v1. Really? Okay, so here, my dude is supposed to fall. I must have just messed the logic up. So what happens is there's two double beams here, which makes a 4x beam for foreign currency trading. This guy here is like we should actually provide a side view camera for this level so you can see this clearly. This guy is suspended because 4 below him is the ground down there. But if one of the beams is blocked, then 2 below him should be empty space and he should fall. And that is not happening to him. It is happening to the stone, which is weird. This one, like, whoops. Whoops. Oh, I just went through the wall? I thought we fixed that. Bro. What happened to this level? I thought we fixed that. 2, 3. Nope. There's a giant hole back there. Maybe I reverted. Maybe Orshi reverted. This is going to be hard to make sense out of, honestly. Dude, I totally fixed this at some point. So 1, we turn off the visibles. 1. Yeah, this is. I mean, this isn't really what we're actually trying to debug, but you know what? You got to do what you got to do. That's not the actual problem. But now, if I go here, okay, I can't go through the wall now. Good. Can't go through the wall. Okay, so I still do not fall there. This is weird. I do fall there. Like what? So maybe I debug this scenario, or actually maybe the other one is simpler. For what was the other one called? Bombs away. Like I didn't want to do this one initially because there's like 3 of these beam projectors and 2 of them don't fall. But I could just check by Z coordinate. Or I could even just delete these for now. And we just will revert that. Bam. Right? So as soon as anyone moves, that thing falls. So when we check is supported for that thing, we should be able to know. So yeah, debug, build. Oh, whoops, we're back on the compiler. Okay. Level bombs away. Okay, make sure it still happens. Good. Okay, so is supported. I'm going to be hungry soon. All right, so well, okay, so we're going to check this probably for a lot of things. We're going to look for entity type. Oh, geez, we can't tell. Entity, because the debugger doesn't know everything about us, because C++ debugger. Entity, mesh resource name, undoable data. See, the problem is we have these usings that import all these symbols across structs and stuff, so I don't have to think about all this. Let's see, okay, this is the Druid. Still the Druid. Mirror, gate, exit, another exit, warrior, goblin, gate, gem, laser base. I believe this is it. Okay. What are we doing? Okay, so we get move info. Delta, -1, right? If it falls, it'll go 1 square downward. Makes sense. Doubles should be 0. This is not a living entity. We should probably not declare this array till later because we don't use it for a long time now. So undoable data position. Oh, maybe our wall grid. Maybe our wall grid initialization is broken. That's my theory. My theory is we're going to look for walls below our position and it's going to say false. Because, we'll see. Because I probably don't initialize it correctly. And we didn't find out until now because Maybe high up in Z, maybe the topmost layer in Z doesn't work or something. Why are the X and Y coordinates fucked? That's not good. This position is supposed to be integers in floating point numbers. That is not good. Yeah, so there's no wall in the below me position, and it's because it's casting. If you go to isWallAt, so often I round, but here I didn't round. Let's go to walls. Here I didn't round, so I get index for the position, and that just casts to an integer type, not worrying about floating point error at all. Because I was like, look, who are we kidding? It'll be exact. I guess I should add some rounding for robustness sake, but what the hell is going on? I mean, I know why it's falling now. Her keys get stuck down. But like, why is its position? It's supposed to, see, if I move it at all, it snaps. So something bad must have happened. So now my theory is it'll pass. Yeah, see. Oh, we didn't completely pass. Oh, because I deleted the other entities that you need to solve the level, so. Uh-oh. Data levels. Revert. Not everything, because we want to keep that move. So I want to sanity check gameplay objects for integer coords. Like I used to, every time you saved a level, I used to scrub those. And I stopped doing that because it seemed like a bad idea to just change coordinates that you didn't touch every time you save. So if I'm not going to do that, though, if only moving the entity fixes it, then if you tweaked it in some other way, like with a command or who knows, maybe it was mounted on something bad, it won't automatically get fixed when the level is saved. So we need some reporting on that. So I will add that reporting. Question, is that also what was broken about these other levels? I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna, no, let's see the other levels. Barred Walk. That's a level, has a lot of entities in it. Let's look at it though. So like probably some gameplay object here is just not, if it's the same problem, is just not on integer coordinates. And of course, who the hell knows what that would be? Maybe it's not the problem. Maybe it's a different problem. I don't see anything having this problem. I don't even see anything having this problem. All right. We'll see if that fixes or not. So bombs away. A lot of these are supposed to be broken. Common passage is not supposed to be broken. Are we processing textures? What? Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Okay. These force fields are ugly right now. It's like, what am I even looking at? I mean, let me just start it. Huh. Wait a minute, I don't remember now. Oh, these guys are supposed to fall. These guys, once the orange beam shines upon them, are supposed to fall through the bridge. It's not happening. So I might have broke something else unrelated. There certainly is empty space under them. Let me make a little test of that. Just a nice isolated scenario where whoops. Yeah, why doesn't this guy fall? He should. So I messed something up. Let's find out. Are we in a debug build that we can debug? I don't know. Are you misunderstanding, or is there a platform? The double beam should make them not be standing on the platform. It's a thing with this game. Okay. We're going to go here. We're going to go is supported. Okay, this is the warrior, exit, gem, goblin. Okay, so we have underscore position, right? And then below me position is z equals 0. My position. Okay, this is weird. Okay, this is the part that's broken. And the thing is, this my position is not your actual position. It's your target position. So I think the code was actually wrong before. Okay, no, there actually needs to be 3 cases, I guess. Wait. What even is this? This is... Yeah, like this is your target position. Like we're... No, what? Dude, I don't understand. I need to rename things so that this makes more frickin' sense. It's a free perk of using LLVM. We actually, our x64 backend also outputs debug info. That is a thing that happens. In Bardwalk, the gem on top of the wall near the cleric isn't at integer coordinates. Okay. Well, that's something that we will... Let me write that down. I'm not sure why that would affect this, though. But it might be the problem. Okay, so I'm just confused about what is supposed to happen here and what these different positions are. So this thing that's called my position is like so we go by the distance, which in this case is 2. We go down 2. Wait, we don't actually go anywhere yet. We're just compute distance. It's 2. And then we say my position.z minus equals 1. And there is a block under us in this case, right? And then we search for things at so-called my position. Why is that called my position? I don't frickin' know. And then we used to say return true in here if there's a wall. I don't understand that. What am I even doing? It says if we're embedded in a tree or whatever, but that's not what that is testing. You know what? Maybe these were in a different order. Or something. Let's just look at the diff to see what this used to be. Like, name your variables well. It really matters. No, not diff later. mouse like stuck. Okay. So we literally didn't change any of this stuff, at least not, since the last check-in. And we just had a checking for wall down here. And for some reason, checking for wall down here is not the same as checking is wall at here. I understand why this would prevent us from falling. I don't understand why this didn't prevent us from falling. Oh, because we have if dist is less than 1.1. Okay. Duh, that's the part that's missing from this. Do I want to, okay, so I could just say if dist is less than 1.1 and, but this still seems like a horrible, hard to understand hack. However, let's separate it into two parts. I'm going to put on my list, rename is supported variables, because I have to understand what's going on there. Like I have to know what those, like I kind of know in my head what they mean now that I've been thinking about it for a minute, but like I don't know what to call them and I don't really know why they're exactly that way. So I need to go look at that. But first we're going to fix the problems that we have and check in so that we're in a known good place. And then if we rename the variables and rearrange some things and break more things, then we'll know what's broken. Okay, so I was going to move this found. Let's move that. Okay, so I have a cleanup down here. Can we remove the dist 1.1? Obviously not yet, but maybe when we refactor this in a little bit. Okay, so if I do this, whoops, we're running in the debugger. Okay, I do this, I go here, I run, and we should be fine. Yep, it worked. Yeah, so I just need to make that function more comprehensible because that's a really important function. It should be very clear. Yeah, there we go. Exactly what is supposed to happen. Okay, barred walk. I thought I clicked on this and saw integer coordinates, but those are integer coordinates. On top of the wall near the Claire. Oh, this one. Oh, that's suspicious looking. Yes. So it probably like fell or something and combined with that other rule breakage, maybe it fell in a bad way. Camera doesn't even pan enough in debug build. Okay, but it succeeded. Okay. So I would bet that there are a number of other entities that have whatever problem happened there. And we're going to have to, I'm going to have a little sanity scrubber. I actually already have a sanity checker, so we can just add that. We add checking for those coordinates again, for gameplay objects only. Cosmetic objects are very often at non-integer coordinates, which is why those are floating point numbers, by the way. That said, we kind of don't care about their physical position. So maybe I should just make them integers at some point. It's just we'd have to have parallel functions for stuff like wrapped delta between vectors and things. And like the editor doesn't really, it's worth thinking about a little bit. Grid size sanity scrub. Iterator scope for debug variables, or for debugging output. And renaming is supported variables. Okay, we've got a little laundry list of things to do. It's not too bad. Okay, I'm just gonna, because I'm being paranoid, I'm gonna run another test. We're glad we ran that test, by the way. There might be new failures. Maybe we didn't actually fix because there were like 2 other extra failures that we didn't look at, but let's just run it. Just run it. See, that took a fair amount of time for that stupid mistake that I shouldn't have made. Don't make those mistakes, you go faster. All right. Yes, it's exactly what is being said is correct. Technically, this language is always LTO if we want to be. It is true that parallelism affects that because you would have to wait for the other function to be done. But again, that's something you can do. You can just choose to compile in a slower mode, probably. I'm not, so LTO is one of those things that I think is, I think in C and C++, it's not really worth the complexity that it adds to all those tools. Because you can point at it and say, hey, you know, look, we got a little bit of a speed benefit out of LTO. And it's like, sure, but if the entire ecosystem were simpler, people would be able to make compilers faster, you know? Like you could get that speed back in other ways. I don't know. So right now, we do not really try to do much in the way of global optimization ourselves in our back end. LLVM could do that right now, except we sort of put things, again, for parallelism into like 4 separate pieces. But within those pieces, it could do the equivalent of LTO without the linker. LTO is huge if you have 32K of program memory to work with. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, right now we do not attempt to, in our global compilation, we do not attempt to identify functions that are not called yet. However, that would not be very hard to do, even with full parallelism, and just not output those. And furthermore, there might be some future gains we can get by just only lazily compiling functions when they're actually referenced. And then if you imported a big library, you would only pay for parsing it, which is very cheap if you didn't use most of it. I don't even think that would be that hard to implement. It's just, you know, there's been other things to do. How long until Microsoft buys this programming language? Well, you know, man, everybody has their price, right? So what's the Microsoft CEO's name? Satya something. If that guy wants to offer, I don't know, about like 20 million might not be enough, honestly, because I've been working on this for 5 years. That's only like 4 million a year. I mean, that's fine when you're a youngster. Only 13 million after taxes might buy half a decent house in San Francisco. That is exactly correct. Y'all, it's crazy here. Do I miss Seattle? No, I didn't really like living in Seattle. How many times have I moved in my life? I don't know, a bunch. I do move every day. However, most of my stuff stays in my apartment on most days. I certainly moved to my office and back home many days. When was I in Seattle? I mean, most of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. Uh-oh. Crash report. Why do you count how many times you've moved? That seems weird to me. All right, we're back down to our regular 10. Well, Is Skyfall V1 supposed to be a fail? I feel like it's not. What? Oh yeah, this one's a fail for sure. Okay, cool. I'm getting tired, so that might be it for programming tonight. We didn't do anything too sophisticated. We were just honestly, you know, actually no. No. I want to get through this wall thing. We're not going to quit. We're too legit to quit. All right. I want to finish this. Wall. Okay. Convert to rock. We're never going to convert a wall to a rock. Don't pull if we find a wall in the target position. If is wall at I don't know about this rule. Like maybe if there's a through beam and you're pulling a throughable thing, like you should be able to do that. But we're not in the business right now. I'll put down on the list to make a level. Right now, we're just in the business of translating what's here. If there's a wall at target position, do we use found at all? No. Where just was I? Okay. We're going to want to look at this. So instead of doing this search, I still don't get it. I mean, like that should be taken care of by can go anyway. So I'm going to make a note to check that. Although maybe we don't. Too legit to quit. All right. Wall. Force supported. Move entity. Don't move walls. Well, we're going to leave that in for now. Okay, skipping stones. Wall. Is ocean filled? If is wall at manager below. Return true. Okay. Really blocked at. If is wall at manager position return true. Okay. We're just going to change a bunch of these. If a rover is embedded in a wall, it can't move. Get zappable and blocker. Uh-oh. This isn't going to work. I think this one we don't try to do tonight. Because this wants us to return an entity that we're trying to zap an object through. This is when you zap an object through a solid object. We will not necessarily always have an entity. So we're going to need to rewrite this. And I'm tired tonight, so we're not going to do that. So I'm going to write down get zappable and blocker. That needs to be done. What is this? This is a mirror scan. All right. So for mirror scan, if this is the same thing, index is less than 0, or is wall at manager cursor, just like for the other scan. And then we ignore that. Okay. Light probe. But all the walkable, oh God. Okay, we're just gonna let this be the way it is. This needs to get better. Yeah, he didn't really know that the entity manager already has extents. Although I'm not sure if we initialize those in the editor. Maybe we don't. In which case, something like this is the right thing to do. Okay. Draw entities. Okay, that's fine. And draw new. I don't think we use draw new. And we still want to draw walls anyway. Decals. Wall. Same thing. So this is just deciding what's the spatial extents of the level. Okay, oh, I was going to go to walls here, and as a safeguard, I was going to round, so we're just going to do that. And round to nearest, even though in theory we do not need this most of the time. All right, so now we're going to do what is hopefully a final Benny test. Hopefully we didn't make a big disaster. It can only break from within a loop. Oops. Yeah. The break was because that used to be a for loop. right. Well, any on-topic questions to sort of hopefully round up the stream and finish? We are working on walls. Do the first few levels fail? I hope not. Let's see. Uh-oh, they do fail. Or only 2 of them, but Arcadia V2 should not fail. Okay, I still need to make a command. This is bad. I was hoping it would be fine. Like what? I can't even move at all. I simply cannot move. Well, that's what happens when you just carelessly delete things. What did I even do? All right. Probably wasn't the skipping stones. Not the mirror scan. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. It had to be this down here. Let's go look again. Convert to rock. It wasn't that. Pulling. This doesn't have to do with pulling. Can transmute. That's not. And that one we left there. Dude, I have no idea. Literally no idea why we can't move. We're not even like trying. We're not even like saying that we're blocked. Like what? Okay, this might just be the testing going haywire. I don't trust that. That is too weird. Okay, we're moving now. So, okay. This makes more sense. Okay, you know what? Maybe, oh, you know what? Did it spit out a bunch of warnings when I started the release build? Because on rare occasions, there's like a, no, it didn't. But I can't move. I think if I rebuild this, it'll work. I think, because this happened to me once or twice before, there's like a race condition in compilation that like causes things to be messed up on rare occasions. I don't know why that would break testing, because usually the things being messed up is just that like not all the commands were generated, but let's see if it makes any difference. No. What did I do? Like I literally, okay, do we have editor commands? Scrub, right? Scrub. Oh, I don't actually want to type that. How about go to? It knows the commands. Okay, so what I thought was the problem is not really the problem. What? Okay, instead of looking at this, we're going to diff. Because maybe I changed something that I didn't mean to change. Oh, no, it's the rounding in walls, dude. I messed up the rounding somehow. I don't know why, but this is, I almost guarantee you, maybe LLVM is generating bad code for this? And the x64 backend isn't? Let's see. If this fixes it, right, and the reason we're not attempting to move is because our guy is embedded in the wall. Because it thinks there's walls everywhere. All right. So it is the rounding. I kind of wonder what the hell is going on there. That's got to be... I mean, am I stupid? I don't think I'm stupid. So like, actually, let's put it back on 0.5. Let's see if we make an LLVM build that's not release, if I also can't move. Yeah. So that's a compiler bug somehow. It's probably, LLVM probably doesn't have the right semantics for casting. We're supposed to be using C semantics, although I would think that we would have seen this. But I'm guessing that it's rounding the nearest or something. I don't know why it would do that by default. Maybe we're telling it that accidentally. If I do floor, probably it fixes it. Let's see. Could it be UB? No. Okay, so if we don't floor, we get the wrong answer. Or something like that. I don't really know, though, because, like, if we rounded up, we would be getting things in the air. But in the air, we'd be able to move. Oh, but then init wall data. Okay. So one or the other or both of these could be really screwy. We're going to have to debug that. I think in the morning, I just make a simple test program. Well, we could do this right now. Let me do this while we do a Benny test of a release build. We start that running, and then I just make a simple test program. So LVM rounds instead of floors when casting to in. No, I mean, I'm sure it'll do whatever you want. It's just we're probably not telling it the right thing. Okay, so if we go x is 3.0. Ix is cast S32 x plus 0.5 x equals Ix equals whatever x Ix, right? So this will be LVM. Seems to get the right answer. So I don't exactly know. It's not something obvious. So negative x behave the same way? Not sure. It should. I mean, maybe they're like round towards 0 or something. Uh-oh. Wait, did I not? Oh. I didn't start the actual test. Yeah, that's correct. Oh, wait, no, Ix is -2. That's not right. So they're rounding towards 0. Or we're rounding towards 0. Hold on. We are rounding towards 0 in x64. And so is LLVM. Neither of those is correct. We shouldn't be doing that. Right? It should just be a floor. Shouldn't it? It's usually truncation towards 0. What? No. Is that true? Are you serious? If that is the case, then I need to put floor in no matter what for it to be correct. We have a cast is always a truncation like that. Truncation towards 0? Why? I mean, I guess the idea is that cast of -x is minus cast of x, which makes sense, I guess. But it doesn't make sense if you're thinking about quantizing things to grids. Okay, so we actually have to put these floors in to be correct. This doesn't tell me why we're getting a different thing between x64 and not, though. Okay, if we're going to put the floors in, let's kill the Benny test and rerun it with the floors in there. Were they in there? I feel like they already were in there and I didn't need to do this, but we're making sure. because that's how C did it. No, I mean, it makes sense for cast of minus x to be minus cast of x. Like that, you can come up with reasons why that's how it should be. It's just, for some reason I expect it to be different. And I mean, I should decide what behavior we want here in this language, but if people like the C version, then maybe it's fine. I was going to play some games tonight, but I think bed is what's really going to happen. You know, I am sure that there exists code that is wrong that I've written, because I assume the other way around. Like what? Okay, here I'm using floor. So, I don't know. Maybe I remembered that when I wrote this code. All right. Having minus cast of x be different to cast minus x seems off. No, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do and what you're thinking about. If you're thinking about, there's a grid of integer coordinates and I want to snap from float coordinates to integer coordinates, then you don't want it to be the C way, because that'll mess things up. You want to just cast to the left, for example, all the time. It's just, you know, you've mentioned this before when I've used cast and it hasn't stuck. Sorry, you know, I'm old. I got a bad idea about what was true and it stayed there. Snapping is a deliberate operation. It needs to be explicit, I guess. But then you could say anything is a deliberate operation. It needs to be explicit. Like, is the language currently as good on every platform in terms of libraries? There's some libraries that we probably only have on Windows. I don't know. Most of them I think we have everywhere. After midnight. I even had a nap today. I'm still tired. But I've been getting up after 7 hours of sleep a few days in a row. So it's time to put more sleep in the sleep bank. Do I still read these days? Yes, I read things. Will I be going back to oxygen not included? I don't know. It's unclear. Have I played Eliza? No. No. Why are people asking me that? Why are people opposed to visual novels? I am opposed to visual novels because I've read non-visual novels and they're very, very good sometimes. And I've never seen a visual novel that was remotely as good as the very, very good non-visual novels. And this is in part because of the medium, frankly. So I don't expect visual novels to be good. Is any of the code I've written in the past open out there for the public? Definitely for my magazine articles, we publish the code. I mean, that's from a long time ago, but we did. If I had to pick one graphics API for each major OS and platform, which would I pick? I don't even know. I don't even know. How much have I thought about whether I want to floor seal toward zero sign modulo? Because I only ever seem to want floor mod when programming. And it's implementation defined in C, of course. Oh, is it actually implementation defined in C? Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the same as the way that I was trying to think about casting. Like, you definitely only want floor mod, I think. I mean, I have to remember which one it is, but like the pattern should continue if your number goes negative. Right? Like, it shouldn't be symmetric around 0. It should be, like, we use mod for indexing things. That's what it's for. So it should give you, okay, first of all, it should give you a positive number, right? And it should just continue to wrap through the sequence as you go left past 0, right? Oh, no, I mean, I am in favor of a mod operator that always returns a positive number. Maybe I haven't thought it through enough, but you know, back when we would write software renderers, we always had to patch around mod to do the right thing. It was annoying. All right, ship it. Ship it. So we've got wall mostly removed. There's a few things I have to look into tomorrow. In fact, we've got an envelope full of stuff, which is not great. However, it's not bad because they're mostly small things. I can crank through at least all of these at work tomorrow. And we did that one even. We did that one. So we found the mystery of the casting. So actually, it's not that many things. If mod always returns positive, you've lost information, which you could always ignore using abs. Yeah, but like, that makes it even more expensive. And introduces a branch that's not really good, probably. They can do both, one with mod and one with mod. But like, whoever wants, how many errors that time? Just the usual 10. If you mean levels failed. As far as I understand it, the reason why the CMod, I mean, I guess it's implementation defined, but all the implementations do the same thing. And I forget exactly what that thing is, because it's never right when it's negative numbers, but it's again, it's for mathematical symmetry, right? It's so that a div b plus a mod b equals a, right? For all maybe that's true either way. I don't know. I need to think about it. But I don't like the C behavior for negative inputs. It's never been useful to me, as far as I know. Oh yeah, I mean, if you're modding by a negative number, then I'm fine if it's negative, right? So if you say A mod B, if B is negative, that's fine if the answer is negative. But if A is negative and B is positive, the answer should be positive, in my opinion. Anyway, so I haven't thought hard enough about it to sit down and write down the exact rules and make them happen. But that's kind of my opinion. If you define the mod according to some div, it depends on whether that div rounds up, down, or towards 0. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Right, so C div goes towards 0. Yeah, see, this is a thing that I haven't necessarily thought that much about. Like if C div goes towards 0, I think you definitely want that to be symmetric around 0, right? So like if 8 div 3 is 2, -8 div3 really should be -2. It shouldn't be -3. Like, no, I don't think anybody wants that. Even though you could sort of relate that to the casting thing I was just saying, I don't think anyone wants that. And I think that would break a lot of code by accident if you decided that that was the default rule. That said, I think we're going to have like mode modifiers on operators, and you could maybe have a mode modifier that says that it rounds that way. So I think that has to be symmetric around 0. So then the question is, what does that mean with regard to the mod operator? All right, I'm going to go to bed. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. And we will do more things in the future, as we always do. Have a good evening while I catch up on my sleep deficit.